and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
Hi everybody. I was going to say it's that time of the week, but it depends on when we get round to recording things and when you get round to listening to it, I guess.
Well, it is Sunday. It is our usual recording time, but like I say, we didn't do anything last week. We had a busy week we had a wedding on Saturday, and then we went to a concert in town on Sunday evening, and I don't know, the weekend just disappeared. This weekend has disappeared a little bit quicker too, because we slid our clocks forward an hour last night, so what is trying to squeeze everything into 23 hours today instead of 24, and tomorrow morning's get up will be the usual groan out as soon as you see the clock in the car and what time it is. But some people complain about it, some people don't like it. I still think it's a great thing because, again, I love the long summer evenings, and if we didn't do it, it'd be dark at like 9 o'clock at night and light at like 3:30 in the morning. So I prefer the later morning and the later night. So I mean, that's my preference again, but everybody's got their own different reasons. But this week, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, you were just mentioning about the clocks in the car, and obviously my truck never gets changed.
Well, it gets changed as soon as I sit in it.
Yeah, because I don't know how to do it. So,
you've had the same type of vehicle with the same radio for the last 9 years, and you're still not sure.
No, I just don't know how to do it. Like, it's why I keep you around.
I was going to say, that's my use, is it?
Yeah. So, yeah. So today's podcast is kind of nothing in particular and everything, I guess.
It's kind of a mishmash of different things over the last couple of weeks since we last did our podcast with Megan and a 100-pound weight loss journey. And to be honest, that has been a really, really good podcast. We've had lots of good feedback about it, loads of listens too. It's one of the highest ones in recent times that we've had listens for. And even I met with a client stroke friend the other day for coffee for an hour, and she said, when we sat down, she said, "Oh, don't you know why we're going to kind of chat?" I said, "Well, just assume you wanted to meet for coffee." She says, "No," she said, "I was that inspired by Megan's story and how she kind of got into the coaching business and helping other women lose weight. And I mean, this client has lost weight and done really well with some other issues as well over the years, and she's inspired and going to change her life and take some courses, some coaching courses, some nutrition courses, and start small and hopefully impart some of her experiences and some knowledge she will learn over the way." And
well, even if she doesn't, it's always good to have knowledge. I mean, even if she doesn't actually do it professionally.
Oh no, and I mean, she's got a family as well. So again, similar thing to Megan, she can impart her things she finds on herself and her family and improve the family's health along the way as well. So I mean, best of luck to her. And like I said to her, we'll mentor her all we can and help all we can. So yeah, but always good with that. So a few other things have happened. Again, clients all the time and client questions and things. And I had a couple over the last couple of weeks. One was via text, I think, and the other one I met with a client. I met with a client and she said, I meet with her on a Tuesday and I meet with her later in the week as well. And on Tuesday, she booked herself up and she did really ate super clean on Tuesday. I met her Tuesday. She went Wednesday. She went for did super clean, did some cardio, and then met with me on Thursday. She got on the scales and was like really disappointed. She didn't lose any weight in 2 days of eating clean and doing some cardio. Yeah, we had a chat for a while again about... she's one of these people that she hasn't got a lot of weight to lose. I mean, she could stand to lose a little bit, but the trouble is when you get to that point where you've not got much to lose and you're just kind of tweaking things, you've got to go the extra mile. You've got to knock yourself out of that comfort zone. You've got to do something that's going to be maybe 5-8 days long, that you've got to dial everything right down to the nth degree to see any results.
And it's good that you actually mentioned about going outside of your comfort zone, because this week, well, I've decided that I'm going to do your protein sparing modified fast diet. So that means that you're going to do it as well with me.
Well, of course it does.
So, but I need you to do it with me because you've done it quite a few times before and I've never done it. So I don't understand the protocols. And it's actually going to take me a little bit outside of my comfort zone, because the last time that I actually was at a point where I was weighing and measuring my foods and really accurately calculating everything that went in my mouth was when I was competing. So I'm actually interested just to try it, because it's something that you've got an ebook on your website. It's $5 or something, isn't it?
Yes, it's on my RPE Fitness Inc. website. And also we did a podcast, episode 42, on the protein sparing modified fast, where we kind of went into it a little deeper. And again, it's one of those diets that you won't do for long, but if you need a good kick in the pants and if you're on a plateau, then it's a good starting point to move off it.
Yeah, and I'm just interested to try it because I actually don't think I actually eat enough protein. My protein intake is actually pretty low, but then I know that we mentioned like lots of times in our podcast, whether it's keto, vegetarian, paleo, whatever, is like pick a formula that works. And my body seems to handle a higher ratio of like whole food carbohydrates, and my weight doesn't fluctuate really that much. But I think because my body tolerates slightly higher carbs, I think I probably, I don't know whether sacrifice my protein intake is the right word for it, but no, I'm interested to try it, and interested to try it from a client's point of view, because obviously I'd never recommend anything unless I've tried it myself. So,
and again, the premise is to have a high protein diet, and then protein will end up at 70 to 80% of what you eat. And people are now all of a sudden jumping up and down off the couch or crashing their cars into a lamppost. What you do is you actually keep the normal amount of protein you would eat, but you reduce carbs and fats right down to virtually not a lot. So the idea is to spare muscle proteins because your proteins are high and it's satiating, but you're going to lose the weight because the two fuel sources that we use or get fuel from for our bodies are reduced right down. So that's the basic premise. Like I say, episode 42 goes into it a ton more, as does the ebook. But it's a bit of work. It's not easy. It's going to take some following. Yes, you've got to weigh everything and track everything because the calories matter, and the calories really matter. And you can't kind of guesstimate how much you've eaten. You've really got to weigh it right down to the last little bit. And again, it's a week. We're going to go for 5 days, 4 or 5 days this week. We'll weigh ourselves on the morning of, and we'll weigh ourselves on the last day, and we'll let you know in the next podcast how it went. And again, like I say, we haven't got a ton to lose. There's a little bit of Christmas, winter, trip to England pudge to push off a little bit before fall spring gets here, but we'll try our damnedest and see what happens. Talking of diets, this was the text I got off a client, and she said that she wanted to, again, move things on a little bit. So she did keto for 5 days.
5 days?
5 days. Never lost anything, surprise, surprise. And then she started to add carbs into her diet, and she ended up actually heavier than when she actually started doing anything. So, and again, she couldn't understand why. And then I explained to her that, 5 days isn't long enough for your body to even get into that mode. Yes, you can overeat on keto and keep your body the same weight, or increase your weight a little bit. And when you add carbohydrates back in, you add water. Hydrate being part of the name of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, basically, when you add them back in, that sugar will also store water, so your weight's going to go up. So, I mean, she went up 5 pounds a watt, who knows, probably water, just that retention. It certainly wouldn't be body fat. But it just perturbed her, put her off a little bit. And like I said to her, and I messaged about 5 days, you're not going to get any results in 5 days. Again, especially if you're not tracking your calories or how much is going in. Because like I say, you can eat a lot of keto, eat a lot of fat, and still put weight on.
And one of the things, and like say, regardless of what formula that you're following, I always think that it's important to have one of those handheld bio impedance testers. Like if all you're tracking is your weight, then you're kind of like missing a vital step. You should be tracking like your body fat and your body composition. So one of those simple handheld devices, we use it with our clients. It's not 100% accurate, but if you're not tracking your body composition, then you've got no clue and no idea whether it's water that you're gaining or whether it's body fat.
What doesn't get measured doesn't get managed.
Exactly. Oh, that's very deep and philosophical.
Even a tape measure. I mean, if you're looking at, like you say, hip to weight ratio, something like that. I mean, if your stomach area goes down, a tape measure will show that. Yes, you're redistributing and maybe moving things around in your body and just increasing muscle mass and reducing fat mass, but it'll show that. But again, a scale won't necessarily show that.
And then, like you were just saying about a little bit of a few pounds of Christmas and winter and UK pudge, but I have increased a couple of pounds like with my weight, but then I hadn't done my body fat for a while, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll just check it, and it actually was still pretty low. I mean, I was at 22%, which is pretty good actually. So it's not, and so I was just interested that, okay, I put a few pounds on, but it's obviously not the wrong pounds. And one of the things that I wanted to like cover is that recently we've had our annual medical, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And I had a phone call come through to my cell phone as I was leaving the grocery store last week, and my doctor's phone number came up, and the receptionist said, oh, we've had your blood work back, and our Dr. Darren, apparently his comments were, oh, your results are very underwhelming. I'm like, that's actually a good thing, because underwhelming means that there was nothing to flag on my results. Everything looked pretty good. My B12 was slightly low, so I'm actually interested. It wasn't significantly low, but my doctor just wanted to bring it to my attention. But going back to me saying a few minutes ago that my protein intake is quite low, possibly that could be something to do with it, who knows. But I wanted to actually comment on my blood work, because in November, my doctor had sent me to a thyroid specialist in the city to go and have consultation with her, because my thyroid results on my previous blood work a few months earlier in the year actually were off track. So I was interested to look at the thyroid results this time, and actually everything was spot on. And my TSH normally is doesn't even register on my blood work, and it actually did. It's all three, my free T3, free T4, my TSH are all optimal levels. And when I went to see the thyroid specialist in November, we actually sat down chatting, and she was very open to the fact that, we prefer to use nutrition as opposed to using drugs. And she actually sat there at the end of the conversation and she says, yeah, I've never met you before, but I actually get the impression that even if I prescribed you with some thyroid medications to take. You wouldn't actually take them, would you? And I looked at her and said, no, that is just me. I'm not saying that if you're given a prescription by your doctor not to take it, that is just me. Like, I don't like taking medication. So if I can correct imbalances through nutrition and lifestyle choices, then I'm actually going to do it. But one of the things we always say when it comes to blood work is that it's just a snapshot of that moment in time. So when I went for the previous ones, multiple factors could affect your results. So stress, like lifestyle habits, even exercise. So when you go for your blood work, it's just at that one moment in time. So my thyroid results came back this time and they're all on track, and they'd been on track previously. So last year when I went, who knows? There could have been some factors, some stress, and you don't know, do you?
No, you don't. And I mean, like I say, it is just a snapshot, and sometimes, again, they just read a little bit too much into it, which is why, again, if you have got some numbers that are miles out or things that are out, then really another blood test fairly quickly afterwards should kind of level things out if things are up or things are down. So I mean, if you go again and things are still up, then yes, you may have a problem. If they're back down again, then obviously one of the readings was anomalous, so maybe another little check and see where things are going.
And we always say you should treat the person, not the blood work.
Oh, that's for sure. And what I did get pulled back into the office because my cholesterol was elevated again, and I had blood work done this time last year for our medical, and my overall cholesterol was elevated. And then I had a 6-monthly one in the middle, and it went back down to fairly normal again. And then this time again, it's fairly elevated. So the doctor called me in and just said, well, I've got to tell you, and kind of what's the plan? I know you exercise and I know you watch your diet. So kind of what are we going to do? And I said to him, well, this time last year, I did a 48-hour fast before the blood work and it was up. And then I kind of did a lower fat, higher protein approach halfway through the year, and it was normal. And then before this one, I just kind of did what we normally eat wise, which again is a fairly higher fat diet. And he's just kind of looking at me, rolling his eyes, because he realizes now I'm using his lab work like an experiment on myself. And so I said, okay, we'll do the...
Manitoba Health love that.
Oh, yeah. I said, we'll do the blood work again in 3 months. So give me 12 weeks. So it looking like, and I know there are genetic anomalies in our family history with, like my brother and my mom are both on cholesterol meds, because again, from a genetic point of view, it's looking like we don't tend to handle fats that well. And I mean, some people handle fats better than other people. And some people, again, food can play a small part in cholesterol. And again, your liver makes cholesterol, so it may be just that, again, we don't, as a family, kind of don't handle it very well. So I'm going to do some tweaks over the next 12 weeks, and then we're going to go back for the blood work again and see what happens. So I will report back as to what went on, what I did, if the changes made any changes. And like I say, if I can stay off the drugs, then all well and good. If not, then it is what it is. But it's going to mean some changes for me. It's going to mean some changes in how I eat, but it is what it is. And if that's what's necessary, I'd rather make those changes than just take a pill and stick my head up my yin yang and forget about it.
And like I say, I mean, we've always said this and reiterate it all the time. We have no bias towards any particular one diet, bias for or against, but we do reiterate when it comes to people following the keto diet, then it doesn't matter how much research you do and whether you love the idea of it. If a higher fat diet is not conducive to your overall health, I mean, and it isn't. So thinking that the keto diet is going to fix everybody and is the best formula out there, it might be that it isn't for you. And we always reiterate that just because you like the idea of a formula, like obviously the higher fat diet,
I like the higher fat diet, but it may not like me.
Yeah, so
we'll find out.
Yeah, so again, just factor that into your choices.
So I was changing gears slightly and moving along. I was just fishing through some stuff last week. We put the podcast out through quite a few various platforms. So our RSS feed that we have through our provider for the podcast goes out to like Stitcher, to Apple, to Google, and to iHeartRadio. So I logged into our iHeartRadio login the other day just to have a look through, see what was going off, and then update a few things about us. And I noticed in there that iHeartRadio have like a Facebook interface that people can kind of leave messages on there. And then
I didn't know that there was.
I had no idea you could do it. So for some reason, it showed up on that messenger board, but it never showed up on our messenger board or on our Facebook Healthy Half Hour podcast page. And it was from a woman called Alicia, and we're really, really sorry we missed it. I mean, she left it 6 months ago, and at the time she said she was listening to all our podcasts, but she's probably blown us out now, thinking you miserable pair of...
Hopefully not.
So
Hopefully not.
I didn't
we
answer.
are sorry.
So her question was that after a couple of years ago, she had her gallbladder removed, and when she had it removed, she was told that she needed to keep food in her stomach all the time. So basically eat little and often, because obviously when you've had your gallbladder removed, they just connect the tube from your liver into your small intestine, so there's no bladder in the middle to store the bile, so there's always just a constant drip. And so this is what she did, and she's gained, she said, 15 to 20 pounds, and like I say, she's eating 3 main meals and a couple of snacks a day, doing what she was told to do, but obviously she ended up putting weight on. She is over 40, she said, and she was just saying basically any suggestions, any offers of what we thought. And I mean, yes, because you've obviously, like I say, you've removed your gallbladder, so now you've not got that storage, because that's all bladders are, it's just an area to store things. She's got nowhere to store it. So yes, she will have that small like drip, drip, drip of bile all the time. And again, we've known friends who've had it have them removed, and people react in different ways. And some people, they just carried on like nothing happened. And again, we did a webinar not long ago for the liver donation people.
Was it. Yeah, live liver.
The live liver people, and talking about this very subject. And one of the people on the thing came back and said that she'd had hers removed a few years ago, and the doctor said it wouldn't be an issue because they have to take the gallbladder out to get the part of the liver that they require for the transplant. And she'd had nothing but troubles for 2 years, like digestive issues. And so again, it affects different people in different ways. So the gallbladder and the bile is there obviously to break down fats. So if you're having a meal that's kind of a fattier content in that meal, then that's what the bile is going to do. It's going to help break down and emulsify, because a fat will float on water, and your blood is about 70% water. So I mean, you don't want the fat to float in that, because it'll just go straight to your melon. So what you want to do is emulsify, so the two mix together. So if you're not getting that emulsification and you're not having those mixed together, what you're going to end up with is greasy stools. So you're just going to end up pooping it out, and you will notice the difference in the consistency of your stool. And again, different fats can need more absorption than others. So like fats like omega-6 fats, which like your canola oil and your processed fats, will probably need more breaking down than what coconut oil or like MCTs will. Because MCTs, that's one of the things that fats get broken down into, is the medium chain triglycerides. So your body will absorb those straight through the liver, and there's no need for the bile process. So again, it depends on what sort of fats. And I mean, the little and often thing, again, if you had a lower fat diet, again, going back onto a diet that suits you, not the one you read in a book somewhere, then a lower fat diet would probably work better for her, because again, she could eat normally per se, whatever her normal is, without having to try to eat all the time. And with that lower fat diet, again, and look at your stools and see how the stools are, to see how much of that fat is being absorbed. Different fats, different absorption. So if you end up with a greasy stool after eating whatever it may be, maybe ground beef or something, then you're not going to absorb those fats too well out of ground beef. If you're maybe having a chicken thigh, which has got a slightly different fat content, different fats, and everything's fine, again, do that and just change your diet to suit. It's going to be a little bit of work, obviously, like everything is. But again, if your weight is increasing, like Alicia said, she's increased 15 to 20 pounds, she's probably just having the extra meals and now overeating a little bit. So if she wanted to still do the 5-6 meals a day, you just got to eat smaller meals, really.
Like I say, that tweaking with your diet and finding what works for you. And you've got a couple of clients, husband and wife, and one of them appears to be thriving with the keto diet, and the other one, it's probably making them extremely sick, and it's not suiting them at all.
Well, again, their health has sort of, they're getting a little older, obviously, but their health has deteriorated, not substantially, but you can see it in them and what their energy levels and everything. And I mean, like I say, one half of the relationship is thriving on it, and the other one is kind of being pulled along a little bit, and yeah, kind of a little bit dogmatic about it probably, and don't want to kind of give it up. But again, that's up to them. That's their shtick, and I mean, well, I'm not going to stick my nose in. And
when it comes to whatever formula that you want to follow, people go, oh, well, I've got to follow this one because the wife or the husband's doing it, or, oh, I don't want to cook 2 meals. And we don't really eat the same formula. My intake is, like I said, probably higher carb. My body tolerates reasonably, not high levels of fat, but my formula is slightly different to yours, but I don't cook 2 separate meals. We only
tend to eat.
Supper
together. We tend to do our own thing for breakfasts and lunches, and supper is the only meal we tend to have together, especially through the week. Weekends, we have the same breakfast.
Yeah.
And again, like today, we just had breakfast and we'll have supper. We've not really had anything for lunch, not really been that hungry because I ate a little bit too much last night, but I'm probably just mentally preparing myself to be fasted protein-wise for the next 5 days anyway. So, I mean, that is what it is.
So, yeah, it's just a case of, you don't have to be drastically different. It's just, put what you put on your plate. The ratios just might be slightly different. Yeah.
So, continuing this mishmash of mishmashy things on a bit, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was an interesting thing that the guest on the podcast was saying that, again, if you don't watch what you eat, I mean, a lot of what we try to, again, promote, and what a lot of the whole foods people try to promote is kind of farm to table. So what the farm produces and then goes to your table. And like I say, farmers markets and things like that, and even us doing our garden at home, there's kind of no intermediary. It's basically straight from one to the other. And the interesting thing that the guest said was a lot of people eat lab to table. So I don't mean Labrador like the dog. I mean like easy target. I mean like laboratory to table. So a lot of people, again, are eating these highly processed foods, and there are a lot of additives in there. And I mean, the powers that be have said all these additives are safe, but like this guest said on the podcast again, is yes, they test these additives and they test them out, and they only test them for like 30 days, and they're tested on lab rats and mice and things like that, just to make sure there's no adverse effects from them, but they never test them together. So I mean, you may have a food that's got 4 or 5 different additives in it, and they've never tested these additives on anything, whether, let alone mice or rats or humans. And so again, what are we eating? I mean, really, like they pointed out, I mean, we're just really kind of a big lab experiment, and people wonder why their health deteriorates. And we've said previously on podcasts that in Europe and Australia, they actually label food additives with numbers. So they have to put the additives in a food, and they label them with numbers, and people can actually, or have actually, had issues with certain foods. I mean, like here, like they use red food dye, but I think when the European number, I think it's 101 or 102, something like that, is the red food dye. So people know they have an issue with E102. They can look at a packet of food, and if it says E102 on it, they just avoid it because they understand what's in it. Here, they just put natural flavourings and whatever else in it because for some North American reason. I don't know. They want to keep it little bit of cloak and dagger, and people wonder why they get sick. It's because they don't know what they're eating half the time.
And like you said about going from farm to table, and you just saying about our garden, and we literally will go and pick something when our veggies are grown and wash it, and I will cook it straight, literally from the garden, bring it in the house and cook it straight away. And you were talking last week, I think it was, because we don't have any fresh tomatoes growing right now. Well, you just put the seeds in the pots yesterday.
Oh, stuff's getting real.
Yeah, it's exciting times, but we bought some tomatoes from the grocery store, and you're eating it, and like my doctor said that my blood work was very underwhelming. Like, it was a very underwhelming tomato, wasn't it? And you actually said it doesn't actually taste of anything.
You're awful.
It doesn't taste of a tomato.
It looked like one.
It looked like one, yeah.
But I mean, it was so bland, and I mean, we bought them, put them in the fridge. In the crisper drawer, and I mean, if we bring ones out from the garden and put them in the crisper drawer, within a week they're already soft and they're already starting to go. And this thing was in there for I think 2.5 weeks before we finished them all. And after 2.5 weeks, it still looked the same as what it did as when it went in when we put it in there.
Pretty scary. Like, what are they doing to them?
But like you say, they're picked green and ripened in a truck or with gas or with something, but the nutrient content of those things must be, I don't know, almost zero, because if nutrient content and taste are aligned in any way, I mean, yeah, because they were pretty tasteless, and like you say, underwhelming, I think, is probably an overstatement. But, so, I mean, again, just mishmashing a few things together, a few things that have happened over the last couple of weeks since we last spoke, and we are going to sign off, but we will be back soon with some more stuff. Talk to you then.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.